Welcome to Kathryn Raaker's World. Innovation, culture, adventure, fashion and health, artists, destinations, traditions. This is Kathryn Raaker's World.
Hi, this is Kathryn Raaker of Let's Just Talk and Kathryn Raaker's World. I have a wonderful guest today who I've known for about a year now, and I absolutely love what he does. He has a company called yournews.com, and he's going to tell us all about the company, how he started it, and what's a big surprise at the end that he's going to tell us about what they're doing now. So welcome to our show, Sam. How are you today?
I'm great, Kathryn. Great to be here.
Oh, thank you. Let me ask you, first of all, if you would give my audience a background of your company and how you started it and why.
Sure. Background on me, I was in financial markets for years. I did a lot of private equity.
Mm-hmm.
It was me and a couple friends believed that the newspaper industry wasn't going to survive simply because of the internet. And this is going back when nobody believed that story. And today, people tell me, are they still printing that newspaper? Does it still exist? They're just on their last leg. So we set out to create a platform that would ultimately replace the not the mainstream media, but it was particularly for newspapers, simply because that was the one getting hardest hit. And it has evolved, Kathryn. I will tell you. I mean, from what we were to where we ended up is completely different. I mean, it's like water. Any company always, it just everything has to seek its own level. So today, we're a hyper local news platform. We're an aggregator, like all news organizations, and what we're doing is bringing all the country's information under one umbrella and creating one uniform media. At the end of the day, what I do will replace the legacy media.
Okay. And would you explain to some people what legacy media means?
Sure. The legacy media would be the old guard. So it's going to be all the traditional newspapers, radio and TV stations, and the terrestrial radio, which is radio on the dial. Now, keep in mind, they all still exist, but there's always a product that replaces something else. For example, there used to be something for called the telegraph, and then somebody created a telephone. There used to be something called a horse and buggy, and then somebody created an automobile. The point is these there's still a demand for news. It's just how people consume it has changed. So the example would be there's still audio podcasts, which would be like radio, but the distribution is not the towers, Kathryn. It's not the towers where people are broadcasting from. They use the internet to broadcast this from, and you could reach a much broader audience.
That's
And then
right.
and it's the same with video podcasts. Technically, it's broadcast television is what it is, but it's using the internet to distribute the content, and they could do it much cheaper simply because it doesn't have the same physical cost as the TV newsroom would, with the buildings and all the cameramen and everything else. Look at you. You have your own channel, right? And you're on multiple outlets where you distribute your content.
Mhm.
And your cost in that is now nowhere near what it would cost to run a newsroom,
Right.
like a NBC or CBS or Fox affiliate, correct?
I don't have to
Or
go anywhere. And I don't have to
and
go
you don't have
anywhere
to
to do
leave your
it.
house, right? All you have to do is just set up your office to where you could be, to where you're your own broadcaster, right? That's
That's
it.
right. Tell me a little bit about your news and what your news actually physically lets people become.
Sure. So remember when I told you we're an aggregator. So here's how the
Yes.
media business works for those people who don't know. News organizations are aggregators, meaning people that have news will send what's called a press release to the media in the local market. So an example would be if you're a nonprofit and you're having some event, it could be a 5K run or a bake sale from the church. Somebody from the nonprofit sends a press release to the media, which is the radio, TV, and print, saying, here's what's happening. The news organizations aggregate that information. They decide what they're going to air or publish. And
Hmm.
as you know, depending on the market, the bigger the market, the less they could air or print, because radio and TV have a limited amount of time and newspapers have a limited amount of space. So they're limited to what they can cover.
Hmm.
What we are is we're a hyper-local news platform operating in every city in the United States. So we can publish content to a city, to a county, to a market, state, regional, or national. So we can distribute content based on geographical relevance. So if a nonprofit sends me something, they don't just email it to us. They click the submit your news button, they create an account, and they post it. The content comes in as pending review. And then once approved, we look at it to make sure nobody's doing anything bad, but then we distribute that content to the subject and geography that it's relevant to. But the moment we had published, an email notification goes to the content creator saying, congratulations, your article's been approved. Here's a direct link to their story. And then they have the ability to share that content on their social media pages, which drives traffic to our site, but we're just hosting their content. Make sense? So I'm the platform, no different than Rumble's the platform, no different than Facebook or YouTube. Same thing. We're just a hyper local news platform. In addition, Kathryn, I know I've told you this before, but the legacy media, the old guard, has been laying off people for years. On LinkedIn, you could always tell who's been laid off. All you have to do is type in freelance journalists on their LinkedIn Navigator. It'll give you better numbers. And there's almost 500,000 people that are out of work. Most of them are part of the downsizing of the legacy media.
Hmm.
So what we're doing right now is our model. We have a monetization model like YouTube or like Rumble or like Facebook, where people can become news reporters. If they are a news reporter, they're going to cover local news. We monetize them. And what they do is they submit the content to us. We approve it. They share it on their social media pages, and their followers come to me to consume that content. And every time that article gets clicked on, we sell all the ads and they get a percentage of the ad revenue. Make sense?
Yes, it does.
Yeah. So it's a way for people to earn money. And the content creators that we're focused on right now are primarily not the old guard, as I would say, not the freelance journalists that are out of work. We're
Hmm.
focused on the student journalists, the people that are in, you know, Columbia, broadcast journalism, or all the different students that I think there are 170,000 that we're focused on. And what we're doing is we're bringing them on board. And the reason I'm doing that is I feel like the people that were part of the mainstream media, the media, as you know, is the problem. Okay. If they'd have been telling the truth for the last 8 years, Kathryn, none of this stuff would have existed. So to me, what I'm doing is I know for a fact all of the companies that replaced other entities, none of the old people were part of the new company. For example, you had Bell when he created the telephone. I saw a documentary on it, so I'm telling you this. The first people he went to were the telegraph people, and
Right.
he said, "Look, I've got a product where if we put this in the house, people can communicate this way." And they laughed him out of the room. They said, "Nobody's ever going to put a phone in a house." Okay, that's what they told him. Well, what he did was he franchised it. That's why you have the different bells. And that's how he got his distribution out there. So somebody else owned Illinois Bell or Pac Bell or Southern Bell, whatever it is. And they picked up the tab to distribute this, to build the business that it is. And obviously today it's expanded beyond. And now we have cell phones and everything else. But there's always a product that replaces something else. And typically the old company, how people, use to communicate, were not part of the new entity. So I do not believe that the people that are the old guard are going to be able to transition to new media. I think it's going to be the younger generation. And I used to think, Kathryn, that because you have, I don't know how many people are in journalism school, but it's a massive number. And I say to myself, why are these kids in school going to journalism school when the layoffs, there's going to be nobody left to hire them. There's no jobs. And then one day it hit me, these are the people that are going to become the next news reporters. These are the ones that are going to be covering the city council meeting, the high school football game, the bank robbery, the car crash locally. The opportunity that they have is massive because you remember you've been in media for years, right? What did
Mhm.
you do when you woke up in the morning? You went out on the porch, grabbed the paper or wherever they threw it, right? And
Mhm.
then, you had the same writers in the paper every single day, the sports guy, the political people, so on and so forth, and you
Mhm.
read all this stuff.
Mhm.
All those people are going away. What's going to replace it is going to be the new media with completely different reporters. And on another note, it's not just limited to people that are in journalism class or people that have been in the business. Kathryn, with the exception of you, okay,
Exception to me. Okay.
okay, I looked it up. There are on YouTube, they have, do you know there's 51 million YouTube channels? Rumble
Mhm.
has 250,000. Okay, now I'm telling you this for a reason. Out of those 51 million YouTube channels, I bet you there's not but 50 people that work for a network TV station, right? The 99.999% have never been in the broadcast industry before. Never. It could be somebody that just said, I'm a golfer and I want to do golf tips. I want to do a golf show. Okay.
Right.
And so they have the opportunity to do it. And my point is the cream rises to the top.
That's
So
right.
and that's how the marketplace should work. Well, it's the same with me. I could take somebody who is very proactive in the community. Let's say it's a soccer mom and that person wants to become a news reporter.
Mhm.
they're they could create an account. We have on our website yournews.com, if you scroll down to the bottom of the page, there's something that says become a citizen journalist, where they
Mhm.
can fill out an application. Once they get approved, they're now a news reporter. They can go out and cover the city council meeting. So you're going to take a person who's never been in the business before, but that people like, that can go out, cover a story for the community, and then share it out on their social media pages to the people in the community. And that person's going to be the next go-to person. And they've never been in the business before. This is why the legacy media does not like new media, because what's happening is basically anybody can do their job. Just so we're clear, anybody can do that. Anybody can, right?
Right.
Some people will do it better than others, and the cream will rise to the top.
Right.
But what YouTube created was the ability for somebody who never was in broadcast to become a broadcaster.
Mhm.
And the marketplace decided who was going to make it or not. What our platform does is it gives everybody to be the ability to be a news reporter,
Mhm.
and the cream's going to rise to the top. It's just that simple. That's how it
Right.
works.
So now that you're in training with these young people, am I right? You're training you
No,
to a
it's
point,
not training.
not training, but giving them the advantage of being
Mhm.
able to write and to do either their neighborhood or their state or the country. Am I correct?
Yeah. And some of these students, you could always tell the ones that are going to make it. They just have better content, right? So some of the sports people in sports journalism, some of their content is so good that we're taking it national because it's national stories. There's only one wire feed I buy. It's sports news. By the time I have all that news covered with my own independent news reporters, I won't even need it anymore. These kids are doing just as good a job as the seasoned journalists. And where they're getting all the information, they're seeing it out there and they're producing content that's phenomenal. So I'm guessing on YouTube, it's probably the 80-20 rule. You probably have 20% of the people making 80% of the money. It's going to work the same with us. You're going to bring on, and keep in mind, there's 20,000 cities. So if
Mhm.
I only had 5 people a city, and you know as well as I do, New York's going to need more than 5 people, the New York
That's right.
proper. Okay, so but then you're going to have some small towns that don't even need one. But I'm thinking 100,000 is bare bone minimum.
Mhm.
You're going to have 20,000 people that are reporting news that are really good, that are making the bulk of the money. Yeah,
And I
it's,
think that's what your news is all about, besides the student journalist, right?
yeah, Kathryn, journalism is like golf. You could play it for a lot of years, right?
That's right.
So, yes.
So, I think you have to love what you do. You have to love to create. And that's what I love about, and I'm going to say this testimonial. That's the reason why I love your news so much. It's
Thank you.
because
Yeah.
and it's simple to do.
Think about all the students in journalism school. Why are they doing it? It's because they have a passion for journalism, right? They love to write. They're there for a reason. So all we're doing is taking them, giving them the opportunity, and just like at any newspaper or any network TV station, some of them are going to make it, some of them aren't. The thing is, there's no jobs for them.
That's right.
That's the thing, Kathryn. So what we're doing is we're giving them the opportunity, and we have it in a local market with the ability to get on a national stage.
Mm-hmm.
That's the cool part. So over time, we're in the process of building the largest news organization in the world. In December, just with a small budget on LinkedIn, I picked up 110 student journalists. 110. That's
That's
nothing.
wonderful.
This year, I want to pick up somewhere between 5 and 6,000. And
That's
it's
great.
not because I couldn't get more. It's because it creates more problems for me, right?
Oh, is that what
Because
you want? Problems?
well, it's just, every article has to be approved. We have to make sure it goes to the proper subject and geography, and you can't let this stuff go live,
Right.
simply
Until you've
because,
checked it out. Until you've checked
well,
it
and
out.
it's
Right?
not like somebody's doing anything bad for the most part. It's really just everybody thinks their news is front page national news. That's
Mhm.
it. It doesn't matter. It could be somebody's Little League game. Oh, this is national news. None of the other categories would even exist if it was up to them. So we have to put a sports story in sports. We have to put entertainment in entertainment. That's just how that's
And you,
us policing it.
and you have a lot of categories, which I love
Tons
because
of them. Yeah,
with my programs, it fits perfectly. Right.
exactly.
And now people will say to me, "Are you going to put it on your news as well?" And I went,
There you
"Yes,
go.
why?" Because we like it. And I think that makes a difference. So let me ask you this question. A lot of things have happened since I met you originally. And what is happening now with your news besides getting new journalism students and others, because you don't have to be a journalism student to do it, right? That's what we've talked about. So,
Correct.
what's next? What's your next goal, Sam?
The next goal is to be able to scale this to become the next tech giant. So the normally when you're, all the tech giants, I'm talking Facebook, Amazon, Uber, LinkedIn, Netflix, all of them are global, Kathryn. So
Mm-hmm.
most likely the next generation news platform that replaces the legacy media is going
Mm-hmm.
to be a global platform. Remember, I'm US based, but for me to open up England or Canada is just a zip code table. They're free. So the next platform is going to be a hyper local news platform, global in every city in the United States. It'll have a social component where the public can interact and share in the narrative. In essence, putting the power of the press back in the hands of the people. It'll have a monetization model for content creators where they can submit their work, share it on their social media pages, and share in the ad revenue, and a
Mm-hmm.
self-service ad platform where business owners can log in and buy an ad and target the ad to any geography they want, as granular as one zip code or as broad as nationwide and everywhere in between, but run the ad around the content that's relevant to their product. This is what we do already exists. It's just nobody's doing this around news. So that's why it's important. We are the content that we bring to the table would be considered, we're talking the national content because the writers we have are more conservative in nature. And the issue that we're facing with the legacy media, I mean, for the most part, they're all bought and paid for, right? I mean, this is why, they didn't cover the Hunter Biden laptop. They told you it was all fake. This is why they went after Donald Trump and told everybody they was a Russian asset when everybody knew that Hillary Clinton put out that dossier, which the mainstream media never covered, that the woman got fined $100,000 for doing it because she was the actual one who produced the content, right? And then disseminated that out because she was trying to win an election. If that's not election interference, I don't know what is,
All right.
right? But the mainstream media is not even covering that. That's the weird part. So the reason we're in the mess we're in today is because back in the 80s, there was over 400 independent news outlets. Today, Kathryn, there's six, and they're all controlled by billionaires. So from a government standpoint, it's
Mm-hmm.
easier to control six people than 400 of them,
That's
right?
true. That's very
So
true.
there's no more independent reporting. That's the issue we're facing. It's all centralized news where the company puts out the information they want to disseminate down to the public,
Hmm.
and they're owned by just a handful of corporations. So what we live in a world today of centralized news where there's obviously government influence. Certainly there's advertiser influence. Example would be, the COVID vaccines. There was much better solutions than the vaccine to curing COVID,
Hmm.
but none of that stuff got out by mainstream media because they would not allow it. You want to know why? Because Pfizer pulled their ad budget. That's it. And without Pfizer, they're out of business.
Hmm.
So it's all coming to a head. And what we do will ultimately replace the legacy media. What I envision is, not we'll use the United States for now, but what I envision is millions of content creators on our platform contributing content and sharing it on social media pages. But ultimately, remember this, we're a platform. So we're covered under Section 230. The only thing we check is to make sure that the content's going to the right geography. So if it's the high school football game, it runs to the sports section, but it goes to the market, right? We have to make sure that's put in place. But other than that, if the journalist is lying and telling us that the one team won and the other didn't, we don't have any ability to check that. But who knows the local market better than anyone? It's the people that live there. So
Right.
the product is actually self-policing, and the public will let you know. And if it's something that's a mistake, it could be corrected. If it's something that's a blatant lie, we just get rid of them.
I want to know, there's something that's very special that you just started in recently within the last 6 to 7 months. Am I correct, Sam?
No, well, less. It's really been 4, but December we didn't do anything.
Oh,
So
okay. All right.
yeah.
So what I'm asking you is, a lot of networks, like we won't mention their name, started doing crowdfunding. They started selling shares. They wanted to be on the stock exchange. And that makes a lot of difference? Am I right or wrong?
Yeah, well, any of these tech giants, they were all funded properly, and they were
Right.
funded from Silicon Valley.
Right.
And the issue that I have with that, because when our company's doing what's called a private placement, where we're selling shares to the public. When you
Mhm.
sell private placements, you're not allowed to sell to anybody that's not an accredited investor, which means that you're limited to 1% of the population,
Mhm.
which, by the way, all happens to be the institutional players, the private equity firms, the hedge funds. Everybody's heard of BlackRock and Vanguard. So those are the people that buy these types of things.
Right.
So what we decided to do is bypass that way. And we decided to do something called an equity crowd fund. So for those of you who don't know what that is, it is a platform. Ours is the platform we're using is called Issuance Express. It's owned by North Capital Partners, which is a brokerage firm. So everything is done through a broker dealer, which means everybody in my team had to go through background checks. We had to do audits. I mean, everything would be like you're going through Morgan Stanley. But what the equity crowd funds allow is for everybody to participate in the offering, and it doesn't matter about your net worth. What they do is they restrict how much you can put in. So what we did was we made the minimum investment in this $200, because here's the reason why. The reason we're in the mess we're in today is because you have 6 companies that own the legacy media, and you have 2 hedge funds that control them. Our product at full scale completely decentralizes and democratizes the news business. So if you have a story that's huge, nobody's going to not run that story, Kathryn. That story's getting out there. You're basically the editor in chief of your own content. When you submit it to us, we're just looking to go, is it a sports story? Is it business? Is it politics? Should this be on the front page? And then we distribute that content based on geographical relevance. That's the only power we take away from you. But that stuff's going live, 100%. Okay. So we decided to do something called an equity crowd fund because we wanted to stay away from the traditional route where they control you. Here's the end of the day. If I
Mhm.
go to a private equity firm, and I know plenty of them, and they participated, basically they're in charge, meaning you're signing their papers. And I would rather get 5,000 people to give me $1,000 than one guy to give me 5 million, because who am I beholden to? You see what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I have friends of mine that I play golf with that actually have private equity firms that, one's 300 million, one's 100 million. And if George Soros offered to buy us and they wanted the money, I couldn't stop it. That's what I'm talking about, because it's all about, they don't want to leave you in charge simply because it's all about dollars and cents to them, and they're one of us, is what I mean.
Okay.
So, yeah, so to me, the most important thing we can do, if we're a news organization that's for the people, by the people, Kathryn,
Hmm.
shouldn't the people own the product instead of the
Right.
institutions? So
Right.
we've completely bypassed them. And what we're doing is we're allowing the public to buy stock in the company. And then the exit for this, I've hired a gentleman he's taken 17 companies public. I don't know the time frame. It's probably been the last 7 years or something like that. But his job is to do the structure for us. That's what he does, and then ultimately take us public. So in the next year, we'll be a publicly traded company. So I've decided to take this to the people, because the people need to own the product, not the institutions.
That's right. So for as little as $200,
Mhm.
you can get in. And I think that's important. I think this makes it exciting for people to be able to own a piece of a company that is moving forward so beautifully. And I just think it's great. So when is the next round?
Once we finish this one I think we can knock out in about 4 months. So the next one, once we do that one, will be a much higher number, much larger valuation. I'll bring in some bigger players for that. What I mean by bigger players is I have people that are influencers that have millions of people that follow them that are all MAGA people. So those will be the people that we promote this and market it to.
Right.
And it's really, you know, at the end of the day, Kathryn, this product should not be owned by me. It should be owned by we the people. So that's exactly why I'm doing it, because we can't put ourselves in a position like we were in before, where you have a company like this that's really controlled by one person.
Right.
It shouldn't be allowed. And I think it was Bill Clinton that signed into law where he allowed these broadcast stations to be purchased, where individuals can buy all of them. And that shouldn't have been allowed to begin, because it gives somebody too much power. That's the issue. So if we're going to be a free speech platform, we want the people to own this product, so the people have all the power, not a couple of people.
And so how can people get a hold of this information, or where do they
Oh,
go? That would be
sure.
important.
So here's how it works. You're going to go to yournews.com, scroll down all the way to the bottom. There's something that says invest. You click that, it'll take you to our Issuance Express page, which will give you all the information on what we're doing. There's a short video on there of me talking, which explains it. If you like what you hear, you could make an investment. Or if you like what you read, you can make an investment. Also, if you're interested in becoming a news reporter locally and covering, anything from the high school football game to, the city council meeting or the school board meetings, there's a become a citizen journalist there, where you can click that link, fill out the application, and once you get approved, you're now a news reporter and you can
Right.
start reporting news.
And
So
it's not hard to do at all. If I can do it, you can do it. Right.
Kathryn does it all the time. So she submits content to us all the time. Everything from a cooking show to she has guests on that could be the CEO of some company, which goes in our business section.
I thank
Yeah.
you so much for what you do, Sam, and why you started it, because I think that's what attracted me to yournews.com. Because
Yeah. Well,
people want, I used to be in the newspaper business and we had talked about that. So that was
yeah.
really important to me. So, anyhow, thank you very much for joining me today on Kathryn Raaker's Let's Just Talk and Kathryn Raaker's World. It's been a pleasure. So, give your website out one more time.
It's yournews.com. Thank you for having us on your show, or having me on your show, Kathryn.
And thank you for joining me today. I really appreciate it. And I know my audience is going to love what they're hearing and seeing.